Each Tuesday on the program, very pleased to have on with us a Ringside All-Star who joins us. He's a publisher of BayouBuzz.com. And he's with us here on Election Day. Very pleased to bring on our friend Steve Sabatowski. And Steve, what's going on?
Happy Election Day to you.
Yes, it's hopefully going to be a very busy day at the polls, and I want to see a lot of our listeners go out there and vote. So, Steve, give us your, take on what's going on.
Well, first of all, in terms of the U.S. Senate race, as I had said before on this show, and as I wrote yesterday, column on Bayou Buzz, I basically said that I would. I feel that the Republicans will take the Senate. It will be either tonight or in the morning, or at the very worst for the Republicans, it will be December or January. But I just can't see how the Democrats would be able to keep the Senate. In the Louisiana race, certainly I think, as I've mentioned before, I do believe that that Cassidy could get over the 50%, and I think that Landry won't. And so it's just a question in my mind as to whether or not Rob Maness is able to get the turnout. I don't think he will. I think he'll be in single digits, which will allow Cassidy to get really close to 50% or get over.
You know what's interesting, and I've been doing a survey of the listeners on the Senate race, and I'm going to give the results at the very end, but among the Cassidy voters, I would say two-thirds of them wanted to vote for Maness, but felt like they had to vote for Cassidy because they felt like he was a more electable candidate. That's sort of an interesting dynamic that is really at play here, and I think if we went to party primaries, we wouldn't have that kind of a dynamic.
Right.
Wanted.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question, and I know that I wrote about that months ago, that when it comes down to Election Day, particularly the Tea Party people would say, okay, well, we've made the statement, we've got a guy who has done all he could, and he's performed well, but, do we want this over now?
All right, hang on. We'll come back with more. Steve Sabatowski with us, Jeff Cruaire here. We'll take your phone calls, 504-556-9696. Hear from the listeners, the candidates, in our final hour. But first, at 10 o'clock, the latest from the Blaze. WGSO 990 AM, New Orleans, Louisiana. 60 years of speaking easy, New Orleans style.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm John DeMaster. Polls opening across the country as millions of voters head to the booths to cast ballots for the midterms. Republicans need to pick up 6 seats to regain control of the Senate. And there's a last-minute scandal in a neck-to-neck Senate race.
The Charlotte Observer reporting that incumbent Senator Democrat Kay Hagan is facing an investigation from the state of North Carolina. Hagan's family business is being investigated for using more than $250,000 of stimulus money for improvements to the company's buildings. The accusation raises not only concerns of a conflict of interest, but would also be a possible violation of both state and federal laws. Real Clear Politics average poll giving Hagan less than a 1-point lead over her Republican challenger, Tom Tillis.
That's the Blaze Radio's Christopher Millian. The Justice Department monitoring elections in 18 states today. This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
Everyone is making the switch to the Blaze to make it their source for the truth. Why not make it your source for the truth? Make theblaze.com your homepage for news that the other outlets won't even touch. Subscribe to the Blaze TV at theblaze.com/TV or on Dish Network and get access to original programming like For the Record, the show that exposes what's really going on that the government doesn't want you to know. And Real News, the daily conversation on the topics of the day that matter most. Check out the Blaze Radio Network at theblaze.com/radio with original shows like Buck Sexton, The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson, Pat and Stu, and Jay Severin. Or, if you need something to hold in your hands, subscribe to the Blaze magazine. So basically, anywhere you need to go, you can take the truth with you by taking the Blaze with you. This is the Blaze. Truth lives here. So just to recap, anywhere you need to go, you can take the truth with you by taking the Blaze with you. Find out all the ways at theblaze.com.
A candidate hoping to be Wisconsin's next governor struggling in the campaign's final days. Here's the Blaze Radio's Tom Peace.
If you're going to beat an incumbent, you got to have a great last week, and you have to hit your opponent really pretty hard. Mary Burke hasn't landed a punch. Scott had a very good week last week.
Reince Priebus, head of the RNC with Greta on Fox News, says Democrat Mary Burke is not having a strong finish to her campaign.
If you lie on your resume and you steal your plans from other people, and your own family has eliminated your position in their company, I don't see her getting too far. Needless to say, that's not a good way to finish the campaign at the very least.
In the Real Clear Politics average of polls, Wisconsin's Republican Governor Scott Walker is leading Burke by just over 2 points.
Governor Walker casting his ballot this morning in Milwaukee. He's elected in 2010, surviving a recall election in 2012. Are the Democrats exhibiting a tortoise-in-the-hare mentality? The Blaze Radio's Greg Moore with details.
On the subject of the midterm elections, Fox News' Megyn Kelly asking conservative columnist Charles Krauthammer if the confidence expressed by a number of Democratic voices is a bit over the top.
Yeah, it's wishing and spinning and trying to encourage people to go out and vote, so perhaps there'll be a seat here and there, a marginal seat that they may win on turnout, on ground game. But it isn't, it is, of course, an election about Obama, his record and his performance.
Krauthammer, a guest on the Kelly File.
Joran Vandersloot back in the news. The Blaze Radio's Robin Walensky explains why.
A report, Joran Vandersloot stabbed in prison in Peru. His lawyer claims he's attacked behind bars on 2 different days, but local authorities denying it. Joran convicted of killing one girl, and he remains the prime suspect in the disappearance of Alabama teen Natalie Holloway. She vanishes in 2005.
This is news on the Blaze Radio Network. Truth lives here.
Tuesday, Election Day, looking like it's going to be a few clouds out there with increasing clouds. Slightly warmer today and
City Business and WLAE, it's WGSO's own Jeff Cruaire.
All right. It has been an interesting election season. We're down to Election Day. It's our chance to rally the vote, get people out there, no matter who you're voting for. We want you to participate. The good news is turnout's higher than expected, according to the Secretary of State. And we'll see what happens when the final tabulations are in. Joining us, as he does on Tuesdays, publisher of BayouBuzz.com, a Ringside All-Star, Steve Sabaldowski. Steve, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Jeff. Thank
All
you.
right, we got a lot of folks who want to chime in, Steve, so let's go to the phone calls. I'm also doing a survey and asking people to give us their vote for who they would support in the U.S. Senate race. And without further ado, let's get to these calls, Steve, and we've got our friend who we know well, the Flaming Liberal, joining us from his headquarters in Atlanta, David Bellinger. What's going on, Flaming Liberal?
And I'm about to go vote, and Jeff and Steve, in Georgia, there's an African-American female running for almost every state office who's a Democrat, and I hope that brings out the African-American vote in Georgia to help elect Jason Carter governor and Michelle Nunn to the Senate, hopefully holding on to the Senate for the Democrats. Jeff, you're...
if you had a vote for the Senate race here, it would be a vote for Mary Landrieu?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mary Landrieu was instrumental in helping people like me with FEMA problems after Katrina, and I am deeply... No Republican offered any help of any kind that I know. She did. It shows that she cares about people, not big executives and big corporations that send PAC money to the Republicans, Jeff. Jeff, Eric Scamuzza, whatever his name is,
Scrametta.
Public Service Commissioner guy.
Al Scamuzza is the seafood king. This is Eric Scrametta.
Scametta, that's it. Thank you for correcting me.
Yes, sir.
It shows how short-sighted Republicans are, and he's an example. You know, it's been heavily reported. It's very likely and possible countries like Iran, North Korea, and China could have or developing technology that could hack our electrical grid and put this country in the dark for more than a year, which would kill millions of people in this country. Now, I think we need an emergency program to put solar panels and wind power on every roof of every building and every home in America to possibly prevent what could be, you know, a bigger attack on this country than Hiroshima was at the end of World War II in Japan, Jeff. And by the way, it shows you that people don't have gratitude. When President Clinton gave us the best economy in history, they elected George Bush, who squandered the surplus, and President Clinton gave us 3.9% unemployment at the end of his time in office, reduced the debt every year, reduced unemployment every year, and then there was the Bush disaster, irresponsible tax cuts, unfunded wars. Now, let's look at just a couple of facts regarding President Clinton's tenure in office. Did you know for the first time since the early 2000s that we have had back-to-back the best...
You said President Clinton. Do you mean President Obama? You said President Clinton. Are you talking about...
Sorry. With President Obama, with his tenure in office, we recently had the best gross domestic product, back-to-back growth since the early 2000s. And since President Obama's been in office, oil production is up 70%, Jeff.
All right.
That's just two of President Obama's accomplishments. And you can't say, well, the Fed is responsible for the increase in oil production, although I know there's new technology. But certainly President Obama deserves some of that credit.
All right.
You will get none for your conservative listeners.
Well,
who don't appreciate a man with a vision and a foresight.
Oh, well, listen, we gave you plenty of time to express your views. Thank you for calling. And let me use your comments as a question for Steve. He's talking about all these great things he believes are going on in the economy, Steve, yet I continue to see surveys that show Americans, and we're talking about surveys of Americans, not buying it, and they don't feel the economy is doing well. Even though he's citing these statistics about growth and saying we're having all this good news, Americans feel like this economy is struggling. And this is consistent data that I've seen from polls. So why is that?
Well, first of all, I do think that the economy has definitely picked up compared to where we were 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, I know that we were just falling off a cliff. Right now, I think that just about every business sector is looking positively. Unemployment is down, and I think that he is right that the energy.
You didn't answer my question. Why aren't Americans? They don't buy that.
Well, I don't. I don't think that they don't buy it. I think that what they're saying is that they would want the economy to be doing better, and so. I think that's what it is. I think that if you were to turn on the TV 6 years ago and look at the state of the economy then versus now, I think that most of us would say, yeah, it is better. And the energy production is 70% based upon the numbers I have seen, independent of what David's talking about. But nevertheless, you know, the bottom line is that Obama's numbers are way down, and that's really what is the issue here in terms of the Democrats.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, if the economy were so good, I mean, the Democrats would be doing very well. I mean, people normally vote their pocketbooks. That's even though with Ebola, even with ISIS, the economy is still the number one issue, and Democrats are going to have losses today. So I think the reality is that the public doesn't feel this great economy that the flaming liberals are talking about.
Sure, I definitely agree. And what I'm saying, though, is that you know, I think in midterm elections you always have that fall off. I mean, it's just something that always happens. I don't know any time in history where it didn't happen, where the party out of power, you know, hasn't done well, and so it's just, you know, more of the same. Doesn't mean that, you know, that people are dissatisfied with President Obama. They are. It's clear they are. But, you know, I give the administration credit for helping the economy, and also in terms of the energy. It could have been totally different. Unemployment could have been up to 15–20% or more.
Well, you're not factoring in all the people that have left the workforce.
I'm factoring that in. I mean, I'm just saying
that's a big issue in my view. And you also got to factor in wages are stagnant. So these jobs, have you investigated, Steve? A lot of them are part-time.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, and I think that a lot of jobs have been exported too. I think that we're not competing as well.
We have the highest corporate tax rates in the world.
Jeff, I don't think we're competing as, and I'm not disagreeing that that would be one of the reasons why you know, we would be exporting jobs and exporting companies. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Okay.
You know, I am saying that if you, like I said, if you look at what the TV, if you look at TV, newspapers, and everything else, internet, and you look at where we were 6 years ago versus now, you know, I just have no doubt in my mind.
Think we're better off than we were.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely better off in terms of the
recovery we've ever had, if you would call it a recovery. I think a lot of people in surveys that I've seen say we're not in a recovery. People say they think we're still in a recession.
Well, and they're welcome to say that. I think that, you know, just look at the numbers. I think the numbers speak otherwise, but it's not as strong. I mean, it's not as strong.
Well, we'll see what happens today, and I think today is one reflection on at least how people feel about the economy, because people vote. The old Carville saying, right, Steve? It's the economy, stupid. I think it still is true today. All right, let's take some more calls. Ralph joins us from Mandeville. Hey, Ralph, welcome aboard. Good morning.
Hey, Jeff, it's Rob from Mandeville.
Oh, Rob, I'm sorry. We got Ralph down here. Hey, welcome, Rob. What's going on?
Just wanted to call in with my election comments this morning.
Yes.
For the U.S. Senate, I will be voting for Colonel Maness. And just to everyone else out there, vote for who you want. Don't vote just because you think somebody may or may not be able to knock off Senator Landrieu in the general election. I think mathematically that's a stretch. I think every vote that doesn't go to Senator Landrieu keeps her from winning outright today and pushes it to a runoff. And I think then you just hold your nose and you vote for her opponent in a runoff. That's mathematically, that seems to be the only path we can go on that one.
Are you disappointed as a Maness supporter, Rob, that so many people have called in to say, hey, they're voting for Cassidy even though they really wanted to support Maness?
I'm not a huge Maness supporter. I just think he's the closest to the pro-Constitution, limited government, and pro-life candidate out there. That's why I'm going to vote for him. But I'm not a big rah-rah supporter for him. So those that want to vote for Cassidy, get out there and vote. Those that want to vote for Manus or a Libertarian, get out there and vote. Every vote that doesn't go to Mary Landrieu keeps her from winning today and gives us a better shot of getting rid of her in the runoff.
Okay. All right, my friend. Hey, always appreciate your call. Thanks, Rob. Good to hear from you. That's Rob in Mandeville. Our call number, 504-556-9696, brought to you by our friends at Sir Speedy, 343 Carondelet in the CBD. Dan joins us from River Ridge. Hey, Dan, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. I met you at a Morgan Stanley meeting a couple of months ago, and I'd just like to get my 2 cents in
on
several issues this morning. One is your friend there, Steve. I think he's way off base on Manus on single digits, and I also think he's way off base that Cassidy can win tonight. Neither of those are going to come true, and we'll prove that tomorrow.
So are you for Colonel Manus, Dan?
Yes, my wife and I will be voting earlier today for Colonel Manus. I don't expect him to beat Cassidy, but he'll be running probably 15 to 18%.
Okay, so Steve says single digits. You're saying high
single
teens.
Digits is no way even going to be close.
Okay.
And as far as Cassidy winning it tonight, I'd be willing to bet Steve a steak dinner at Ruth's Chris if that won't happen. Mary Landrieu is going to be in first place.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the Colonel would have won today if all the people that wanted to vote for him actually voted for him?
It's really funny because, you know, we all run in certain circles, so we get different impressions, you know, from the people that we associate with. But on most of the ones that I've talked to that have indicated Cassidy, a lot of them were misinformed that if Mary ran first, she would win the election, for one, and so there was a lot of misinformation there.
How big was the role of the Republican Party, you think, Dan, the Louisiana Republican Party, and their endorsement for huge? Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, huge, terrific. Oh, and one other comment.
Yes.
On something else that I'd like to make is about the gentleman that called from Atlanta.
Yes.
About the solar panels.
Right.
And I would say this: if solar panels could exist profitably and effectively without government subsidies, I think everyone should put one on their roof. But it's not even close.
Well,
so what we're doing with this is we're having the government fund the solar panel business.
And that's what I asked Eric Scremetta, Dan, earlier on the program about whether it can compete on its own.
It can't.
Yeah.
You know that as well as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means who's picking up the tab for it?
Right.
The rest of us, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the reality of it right now. We'll see what happens in the future. Hey,
I'd like to call tomorrow, and if Steve's on there, and see how this comes out.
All right. So, Steve, you're going to take him up? Or are you going to bet him a steak dinner on the Manus numbers?
I'd love to. I don't bet on anything, but I would love to. Only because
you're pretty confident, huh, Steve? You're pretty confident. Sounds like.
No, I'm not pretty confident. You know,
right. Hang on. We'll come back with more, but let's go to a break. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
This is Warren Montgomery, candidate for district attorney. My opponents are desperate to distort my record and exaggerate theirs. The truth is, neither Mr. Traynor nor Mr. Black have ever tried one felony jury trial. Not one. Mr. Burns' law firm represented Walter Reed's stepson when a young man died in a tragic boating incident. Mr. Reed's stepson got community service instead of jail time. And Mr. Burns is independent? Warren Montgomery's record. My record. I'm a former federal prosecutor with dozens of felony trials in hundreds of cases. I want to stop the drugs and corruption, but I need your vote, and I'll work hard every day to deserve it. Vote qualifications, not connections. Vote for Warren Montgomery for district attorney.
A friendly reminder that this election is not Saturday, but Tuesday, November 4th. So please get out and vote for the candidate that will best represent Washington and St. Tammany parishes. And that candidate is former federal prosecutor Warren Montgomery, paid for by the committee-elect Warren Montgomery.
The Perry Nicosia campaign is in deep trouble, and so is Perry Nicosia. There is an active federal RICO complaint going on in federal court. The docket number is 21401945. It involves a scheme and conspiracy to extort protection money using a debris removal business that Nicosia owned, along with his two law partners, Lance Licciardi and Randy Nunez. Allegations of racketeering, wiretaps, shakedowns, federal investigations, and on and on. Nicosia is on the radio saying the case has been dismissed. That's a lie. The case was transferred from Mississippi to Louisiana, and Nicosia knows that. Word has it that if Nicosia wins the DA's race, Lance Licciardi will be his first assistant. That's scary. With no experience and a campaign of lies, Nicosia should never be our DA.
Paid for by the Glenn Diaz Campaign Fund.
Hi, my name is Donnie Natel Jr. of Natel's Air Conditioning. We service all makes of air conditioning and heating systems. Our motto is service honoring the golden rule. More than likely, we have been in your business or homes many times in the last 50 years. Katrina caused many of our customers to relocate around in the New Orleans area. Please call us, 504-821-0005. And once again, let us service your air conditioning and heating systems, 504-821-0005. Proud sponsors of the St. Jude Dream Home.
For the past 6 years, Ruth Ramsey has been working in a bank, while Judge Chris Bruno has been working in a court. Ramsey admitted she has not handled one single case in civil district court.
If from the civil district court, I have not signed pleadings and CDC.
Bruno's handled over 15,000 motions and trials, which is why 86% of the New Orleans Bar Association members picked Chris Bruno as the best person for judge. We don't need a banker in this court. We need a judge. Re-elect Judge Chris Bruno.
Paid for by the committee to re-elect Judge Chris Bruno.
Join us right here on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com for election night coverage. Jeff Cruere here. I'll be joined by William Wallace, host of William Wallace's Town Hall. We'll be reporting on the U.S. Senate race and all the other elections. We'll be talking to the candidates, analyzing the results, but most importantly, taking your phone calls. The fun starts at 8 p.m. We'll go into the wee hours, and we'll see who's the winners and the losers of the midterm election. So be sure to join us election night right here on WGSO.
Ringside Politics with a Punch and Jeff Cruere are on the air now. Whether you're defending a sacred cow, beating a dead horse, or shooting the bull, bring your chickens home to roost now by calling Jeff Cruere at 556-9696.
Hey, we're back. Got a lot to do in our remaining minutes. Steve Sabadowski with us, Jeff Cruere here. And don't forget, tonight, election night coverage starting at 8 o'clock right here on WGSO. William Wallace will be with us. And we'll be calling on people like Steve Sabadowski and Chad Rogers, our other experts, to join us on the air and talk about these results. And, Steve, we have a full call board. A lot of folks want to chime in. Can we take some more calls?
Sure, go ahead, please.
All right, and let's see who we have next. Joining us from Pearl River, Mr. Adam. Hey, Adam, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning, fellas. Yeah, Jeff, all this touting of Obama with the economy that I've heard in the last few minutes. Number one, the Flaming Psycho cited 80% increase in oil production. He failed to delineate that offshore production in the Gulf of Mexico and exploration, by the way, has decreased since Obama took office by at least 50%. And if you want to check the employment figures, you can. But let's look at the Times-Picayune employment ads. They have dwindled from the weekdays from 3 pages to a half page. And on Sunday, what used to be 6 to 8 pages of employment ads is down to 1 page. That's
now,
when you
that could be also just part of the trend away from print, you know,
Sure,
Adam, as people don't even use the Times-Picayune anymore. But let me get you on record. Do you have a supporter that you want to announce for the Senate race?
Oh, yeah, I've already voted for Rob Maness this morning, and I will vote for either candidate, he or Cassidy, if they're in the runoff.
Do you have a favorite in the DA's race?
I voted for Montgomery, although I don't know a whole lot about the candidates. just what I've heard on the show and what I could read about a little in the newspaper and online. Yeah, so I voted for Montgomery in the DA case.
All right, my friend. Real quick, sir, because we've got to roll. Real quick final statement. Go ahead, sir.
James called in yesterday, and I found it amusing since he touts Obama for the last 6 years, actually trying to make a separate Mary Landrieu from Obama by coming up with a silly analogy to chimpanzees. And the fact is that Mary Landrieu supports Barack Obama not 70% of the time, but 100% of the time. That's 30% of voting that's claimed for her against Obama. That's only in cases where she knows that issue doesn't have a chance of getting through Congress.
All right, my friend. That's Adam in Pearl River. Thank you, sir. 504-556-9696. Let's keep it rolling. Phil the Patriot from the Patriot Cave. How are you, sir?
Hey, fantastic. A little bit under the weather, but I'm getting ready to go and vote for Colonel Rob Manassas. And listen, Jeff, I want to ask you a question. What kind of language do zombies and politicians speak?
Tell us.
It's called English. And I want you to know something, that Mary Landrieu and Bill Cassidy are both politicians. Bill Cassidy authored something called Barack Obama, Obamacare Light. First he's for it, then he's against it. I vote for Colonel Rob Manassas because he's not two-faced like those idiots. Get out and vote for Colonel Rob Manassas. Don't vote for these other people. You're making a mistake. Ah!
That's Phil the Patriot. Steve, a lot of passion for the Colonel. 504-556-9696. Let's keep it rolling. Rick joining us in Metairie. Hey, Rick, welcome aboard.
Good morning again. Good morning to your guest there. On him unemployment figures, he needs to figure in the people that dropped out of the workforce. It's a very big majority. And as far as the flaming psychopath or whatever you want to call him, I usually reserve my comments to something more important, but I noticed that even though the man is blind, he notes that all the candidates running in Atlanta, Georgia, where he's at, are all African American. Like that means that they're superior or something, and they can govern better. If that was the case, Africa would be in a better situation than what it is.
Real quick, sir, we got a lot of calls in.
Mary Landrieu on Fox News, she's already throwing Mardi Gras beads out, saying she's got more than 50% of the vote.
I don't think that's going to happen, my friend. I don't think that's going to happen. Steve, you think she's going to get more than 50% of the vote today?
No.
I don't think so either. Our good friend Captain Black calling in. Hey, Cap, how are you? Good morning.
Greetings, fellow hostages.
Greetings, Captain.
We have a momentous day. I voted Republican for the U.S. Senate seat. I would tell people that in looking at the two candidates, here's my breakdown. With Rob Manassas, you have someone who is approachable, who has reached out to the black community, conservative and otherwise. You have Bill Cassidy, who's engaging and has the establishment behind him. Let your conscience be your guide. In Orleans Parish, it's no big secret, I am a very fervent supporter of Tatrice Harrison, Nikki Roberts, and last but not least, Graham Bosworth.
All right, Captain. As always, we appreciate you. Thanks for your call. We got you down. Let's try to squeeze in as many as we can. 504-556-9696. James in Metairie is with us. All right, James. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning, Jeff, and hello, Steve. A couple of public service announcements real quick, Jeff. Oil prices are down over $2 this morning thanks to the president's policies. If you can put off buying gas today, wait until tomorrow. It's in the mid $2.50 range. Also, Jeff, the Mega Millions jackpot is up to $321 million. And if it were up to the Christian conservatives and the Islamists, the Sharia law types, both repressive political forces, we wouldn't have the chance to participate in the Mega Millions and the Powerball. Now, Jeff, I'll be voting for as many libertarians as I can this morning.
What about in the Senate race, James?
I'd rather I don't like to say who I vote for specifically, Jeff, but just think about it, folks. We are better off today, Jeff, than we were when Obama came into office. Just look at the economy. The Flaming Liber was right. And by the way, Jeff, let me just say that people are just voting against Obama. You know, they're voting against, in many cases, their own interest because they're voting against a black president. I don't care what they say. There's a lot of that going on. That is reality, Jeff. Just like the Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
James in Metairie, 504-556-9696. Thank you, James. Let's roll on. Blade joins us from New Orleans. Hey, Blade, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to say, you mentioned that nobody uses a time sticker unit anymore. My wife and I were going over the amendments last night.
Yes.
And on the ones that we didn't understand, I just said, well, wait, let me see what the Tom Sticker-Yoon says, because whatever they have, I'm going the other way.
Okay.
So that was my guide.
So it was helpful in one respect. All right. So what are your thoughts on the Senate race? What direction are you going, Blade?
Senate race, I'm going with, I already voted.
Okay. Can you share it with us? We're trying to do a ringside survey.
I'm having a senior moment, Jeff. Not Cassidy and not Landreau.
Manus? Rob Manus?
Yes, Rob
okay.
Manus. Thank
All right.
you very much.
All right.
Voted for Warren Montgomery.
And Warren Montgomery. Okay. We're getting votes on the DA's race and the Senate race.
Let me tell you, he actually represented my ex-wife in our divorce, and I thought very highly of him then.
Oh, really? Well, boy, you don't hear that very often, do you, Blade?
I think he's got his head screwed on correctly.
Wow.
He seemed to be a upright guy.
All right, my friend. Hey, thank you so much.
Okay.
That is Blade calling in from New Orleans. Steve, final comments, sir? What do you make of all this? Lots of passion here from the listeners.
Sure, lots of passion, and again, I think that they'll be disappointed, and that's I think that it's.
So your prediction is that the Colonel will get less than 10% of the vote.
Yes,
all right,
exactly.
Now coming up next is going to be Mary Madeline, so we're going to get her view and see whether she agrees with you or not. And Steve, hopefully we'll be able to get you on tonight for our election night coverage.
Absolutely.
All
Thanks
right.
a lot.
All right, thank you, Steve. It's BayouBuzz.com for more information, and my column will be on there later on today. All right, we'll be joined by Mary Madeline when we come back.